After the 1974 golf season in Europe, Peter Osterhaus was awarded the Order of Merit, earning just more than £32,000 and winning 3 of the tour's 18 events. The following year, our next inductee took the reins of the European Tour, succeeding Hall of Famer John Jacobs as the man who would expand the circuit beyond the bounds of continental Europe to 4 continents. Presenting Ken Schofield for Induction is the man who guided the United States Golf Association for more than 2 decades and was instrumental in bringing golf back to the Olympics. Please welcome Mr. David B. Fay.
A typical Hall of Fame introduction includes lots of video and photos of great golf shots being played and trophies being hoisted. And that's how it should be. After all, it's the players who draw our attention, earn our admiration, and sustain our interest. The golfers are the performers, the entertainers. But just as actors and musicians require the talents of writers, composers, producers, and directors in order to perform and dazzle, so too do our professional athletic stars. So it makes perfect sense that the major sports have a long-standing practice of electing their organizational leaders into their halls of fame. The builders, if you will, who came along at critical times in their sports history. Commissioners of professional leagues like Kennesaw Mountain Landis in Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League's Frank Calder, the NBA's Walter Kennedy, the NFL's Pete Rozelle, and the PGA Tour's Dean Beeman. Each one of them a Hall of Famer, and rightfully so. Tonight, we welcome another builder into the World Golf Hall of Fame, Scotland's Ken Schofield. While there are no videos of Ken's golf swing, at least I hope not, Ken, during his 30-year tenure as the head of the European PGA Tour, certainly put up Hall of Fame numbers. In 1974, the European Tour was seasonal, with 17 events played mostly from late spring to early autumn in the UK, Ireland, and Western Europe. When Ken stepped down in 2004, there were 45 competitions played throughout the year. Total prize money had gone from $770,000 to nearly $130 million. The European Tour conducted tournaments on 4 continents, the whole of Europe, as well as Africa, Asia, and South America. Indeed, with Ken as the leader, the European Tour was the first professional golf tour to go global. The Challenge Tour and European Seniors Tour were formed on Ken's watch. And Ken played an instrumental role in making the Ryder Cup the must-see team competition it is today by pushing in 1979 for the expansion of the team composition to the whole of Europe, which allowed golf fans to see the match play skills of continentals such as Seve Ballesteros, Jose Maria Olazabal, and Bernhard Langer. And when Ken retired from the tour, he left behind a team of seasoned, highly skilled administrators he had recruited over the years, including George O'Grady, who today continue to build on Ken's global successes. You know, visionary leaders have the smarts to size up the landscape they're presented with and boldly take full advantage. By the mid-1970s and 1980s, Europe was producing a bunch of young players who were fresh, talented, photogenic, and who came across in person and on TV as a group of athletes with panache. Economies in the European zone were gaining strength, and television, including the birth of sports cable networks, was on the hunt for appealing sports programming. Ken played his cards masterfully to use, in the words of George O'Grady, his vision, passion, and reservoir of knowledge to establish the foundations which we enjoy today. Ken was unwavering in his belief in his players and their tour, and was the European Tour's chief cheerleader in addition to being its strategic architect. Oh yes, Ken has the gift of the Blarney Stone, which makes me think his ancestors must have made the trek across the Giant's Causeway from Ireland to Scotland. Simply put, Ken Schofield led the European Tour into the big leagues of professional sport to the benefit of thousands of talented players and millions of fans worldwide. So congratulations, my good friend, on your election into the World Golf Hall of Fame. As your fellow footballer zealot, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Rod Stewart would say, you wear it well. Please join me in congratulating one of golf's transformational leaders, Scotland's Ken Schofield. Excuse me, Ken, before you begin, there's another little presentation that I'd like to make. I gather you're a footballer fan, and I think we know your favorite team, Manchester United. And I think we know one of your heroes, the manager of Man U, Sir Alex Ferguson. This is a handwritten letter to Ken. Ken, I think he wrote this before yesterday's loss to Chelsea.
It was a black day.
I hope so. Otherwise, it wouldn't be this long.
David, thank you. David, thank you so much. David, thank you for your very kind words. We've been dear friends for a long period of time, and you are one of many, and indeed many in this hall, who have helped myself and my team and my successor, George O'Grady, to grow the European Tour and help our international players. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this is a proud and very humbling evening. To learn of being nominated through the Lifetime Achievement category into the Hall is the proudest moment of my professional career. And I certainly wish to express my appreciation to the international voting body and to the World Golf Foundation's board. A year ago, a number of you may have been present for the class of 2012, Phil and Hollis's class, amongst others. Now, I understand a venerable 82-year-old Englishman was inducted a year ago. And I have to say to you that a large part of the reason I stand before you this evening was that same Peter Alliss, because some 54 years earlier, on a wet, cold and windy day in October 1958, my late father and favourite uncle took me to Gleneagles Hotel, where the first professional golfer I saw striding the fairways was 28-year-old Adonis Peter Alliss. And ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you Peter was a magnificent player and a magnificent athlete in those days. I was very fortunate to grow up some 3 miles from Gleneagles Hotel, which we know will be the site of next year's Ryder Cup matches. 2 years later, I went back to see a Dunlop tournament at Gleneagles, and in 1962, I was a volunteer extra in a Shell Wonderful World of Golf match featuring the 1961 United States Open champion Gene Littler and Scotland's own Eric Brown. I was hooked. What I wasn't to think of or know at that time is that a moment would come when I could sit in this hall and have done with Gene Littler and I had the privilege of becoming Eric Brown's executive director of the European Tour. As I say, I was hooked. I'd wanted to be a footballer or a cricketer. That's our baseball. And I found out early enough that I was not going to make it, so I embarked on trying to qualify to go into banking. You may Twitter, but I did. But subconsciously, during those times of qualification, I'd become a fanatical follower of tournament golf, collecting all my own statistics and newspaper cuttings. And of course, in those days, black and white television was bringing the great tournaments and the great players into the Schofield home. All this led to a day in August 1971 when I had noted that John Jacobs, my mentor and my friend, had been asked by the tournament players to start the Modern European Tour, and I obviously knew of John. And we were on holiday near Gleneagles, and I saw an advertisement to join as a deputy press and PR chief and join John's revolution. I asked my wife Evelyn to type my letter of application, which she did, and she said, "You will get that job." Unwaveringly, she said it. And she was right. I got that job. Evelyn, you supported me then. You've supported me ever since. Not only my thanks, but happy birthday. With your permission, I'd just also like to acknowledge our daughters Susie and Yvonne and thank them for being here and representing back in England our extended family with Steve, Nick, Harrison, Helena, and Callum. You've been great supporters. Thank you so much. Now, I think, particularly with David's wonderful video, we can almost skip the next 33 years of my life, because I think what I should say quite quickly is that it afforded me a wonderful privilege, together with many challenges. The privilege was to work with many people, a number who are here in the hall this evening. Many are back in Europe, and many are elsewhere in the United States and around the world, be they fellow officials from the Professional Golfers Association or the Royal and Ancient Golf Club, all of our European Golf Association federations, and those further afield across the whole breadth of the world of golf, together with our sponsors, our written and radio media, our promoters, the players' managers, and all who helped make today's European Tour what it is. My induction is a tribute to all of those people. I've always seen it that way. We had wonderful help, and I thank all of them. And if you'd permit me perhaps to allow me to name three of them who were and remain at the forefront of all of those who helped me and helped make the European Tour what it is today. I've mentioned John Jacobs. He is the founding father of the Modern European Tour. He is 88 years young. His mind is good and strong, his body less so. Neil Coles has been the Tour's chairman for 30 years, was a wonderful player and is also rightly in the hall. And George O'Grady, my colleague, my partner really, and now my successor. All three of them, professionally and personally, have been with myself and all of the others to help make this evening possible and make today's European Tour what it is. And I wish to pay tribute and express my appreciation to these three gentlemen on behalf of many others. Thank you, John. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, George. Those were the privileges. The challenge was very similar. The challenge was a simple one, and David has alluded to it. It was to try to put together the best possible schedule so that our players could emerge and play on an international stage in major championships and in Ryder Cups. And tonight is such a special night because starting with Willie Park Jr., whom I'll come on to maybe a little later, and Ken Venturi, who sadly is not well enough to be with us, and Fred Couples and Colin Montgomery, who both are, and who I've had the privilege of seeing both their magnificent careers. Colin, if I could say to you simply, I know that George has articulated your wonderful career. It's in the record book. I can say a couple of things really, that my privilege was to see you firsthand dominate the European scene and be the bulwark of many of our Ryder Cup teams, including being captain. And David, I didn't know that you were going to tee up or had teed up Sir Alex, but if I could indulge our American audience to say that back home our biggest sport is football. I know you have a different kind of football and you want me to call it soccer. Manchester United are the greatest team in European soccer. And what I would want to say to Colin, in a golfing sense, in a European golfing sense, Colin, you were Manchester United. Congratulations. You're so completely deserving of taking your place in this hall together with Europe's other modern Hall of Famers. And I thank you for being the heartbeat of European golf for so many, many years. Now, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I feel I had a parallel love affair with American golf and golf in America for all of those years. And I hope very briefly to explain why. When those early black and white grainy television pictures started to come in from Augusta onto our screens back home, they depicted Arnold, they depicted Gary, and very quickly thereafter Jack. They made tremendous impression on my household. As I said earlier, I'm so sorry that Ken Venturi is not here this evening, but I'm delighted his two sons and grandson are, and they rightly will be proud of a great man, because although perhaps BBC television did not show Ken's emotional victory at Congressional, I certainly heard of it and read of it, and I did see him on our screens the next year when he was part of a very strong United States Ryder Cup team. And I saw him again playing Neil Coles in the Piccadilly World Match Play at Wentworth in 1966. To Ken, all of us in this hall wish you a full recovery, and I know that Jack Peter wants you here next year with this microphone. Your commentary for so many years was and remains the benchmark for golf analytical commentary. I think we should all wish Ken and his family the best. In 1980, I felt it was important to see how the might of the PGA Tour was operated from here in Ponte Vedra, and Evelyn and I came on that occasion and have been coming back ever since. Dean and Judy Beeman embraced us and welcomed us, and Tim and Holly have continued that. That's the way it is with golf in America. It's inclusive, and visitors are welcomed with open arms. I think tonight of Willie Park's induction, and I think of how 100 years ago or so he made the journey here just as I've done tonight, and Colin, and he came and with his pioneering British, mainly Scottish, and some English, early professionals helped grow the game and start the game here in the United States. And I then think of Arnold and Jack, how we were lucky in reverse. That in 1960, Arnold decided he would come and play in the Centenary Open Golf Championship. And pretty much come back ever since, winning it the next 2 years, bringing Jack. And from that moment on, all the great American players have rejuvenated this third leg of the 150 years of the Open Golf Championship. And then you think of Jack Nicklaus being the lead voice in saying the Ryder Cup needs to become more competitive. There's a fledgling European tour getting going. There's a young Seve who nearly won Johnny Miller's Open. Let's have them all playing. When you think of the two great names of Arnold and Jack wanting to ensure the Open Championship and the Ryder Cup would continue, that tells me that everyone in this hall pulls for all of golf. And therefore I think it's very fitting that Willie Park Jr. Is being inducted this evening. He would approve of what Arnold did, and he would approve of what Jack did. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, 8 years ago, I had a rare privilege. In leaving a talented team at Wentworth on the European Tour in George's hands, I had an opportunity to join an equally talented team at Golf Channel. I had the privilege of being there in Orlando on the night that Joe Gibbs launched the channel. What it did was to promote the European Tour and the other international tours here in the United States, something that has been so important for growing the professional tours in those countries. To all of the people at Golf Channel, my colleagues and my friends, both behind and in front of the screens, my appreciation to you for welcoming me, embracing me to the team. I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to share some of my observations with American golf followers on Golf Channel. Jack, to you and the board, my thanks to everyone in this hall in thanking you again for this privileged and rare honor. I would like, I think, to invoke some of the words of the late, great Hall of Famer Henry Cotton, who said, golf, the game of a lifetime. And I would add to that, golf, the greatest game. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your support and allowing me to be with you tonight.